9 days from now, silver changes forever. This is insane. We've seen silver rise to $29. We've seen it hover at $28. But in this video, I'm going to show you that 9 days from now, this will change silver forever. I'm going to break this down for you and show you what's happening today shows us the countdown has started. This is an article on Reuters, and it says, Gulf markets subdued on geopolitical tensions, U.S. rate cut concerns. Right there in that headline, there's two main issues that are pushing silver up. This issue with Iran and Israel, we are not presently seeing an all-out war, right? We saw Iran attack Israel. Israel responded with limited response. That leaves uncertainty. And whenever there's uncertainty, people move into precious metals, and they're going into silver. Let's start. This article says, most stock markets in the Gulf were subdued on Sunday amid geopolitical strife and uncertainties surrounding U.S. Federal Reserve policy. The article says, in its first ever direct attack on Israel, Iran sent a barrage of more than 300 missiles. Israel responded with limited attacks on Iran. Right away, we see that this issue in the Middle East is not going anywhere. That uncertainty is going to continue to cause people to go into silver. This article then says, elsewhere, Chicago Federal Reserve President Austin Goolsbee said on Friday, progress on bringing down inflation had stalled this year, becoming the latest U.S. central banker to drop an earlier focus on the coming need for interest rate hikes. So this is just another central banker that is saying we're going to have to keep rates high. And we've all seen this pivot. Many central bankers have been pivoting ever since Powell made that first announcement, 4 or 5 weeks ago, stating that we're going to see 3 cuts. And ever since then, the dominoes have been falling, right? And now more and more central bankers are saying, look, it's not going to happen. We're going to keep these rates high. Again, another reason silver is going to push up and up. Now, let's continue with this article. This article says, the International Monetary Fund said on Thursday, Middle East economies would grow at a slower pace this year than it previously projected, as the war in Gaza, attacks on Red Sea shipping, and lower oil output add to existing challenges of high debt and borrowing costs. Now, what this article does not say, but we know, is that the IMF also, this past week, pointed their finger at the U.S. and specifically at our growing debt and said, we need to stop. The IMF is pointing at us and saying, this debt is out of control. Something has to be done. You cannot continue to, and especially during an election year, right? The U.S. actually is not alone in this. Many countries are having elections this year, and they're all doing the same thing. They're all decreasing the amount of taxes that they collect from their public to make their public happy, and they're all relying on debt. And the IMF is seeing that and saying, look, this has to stop. Again, this is another reason that people are pulling their funds and putting it into precious metals like silver. All of this is boosting silver up and pushing it up to this. I see all of this pushing silver to the $35 range. Yes, you heard me say that, $35 range. Here's another. This is another article. This is CBS News says, what will happen to mortgage rates after the Fed's April meeting? Now, 9 days from now, the Fed will have their April meeting. And according to this article, this says, despite numerous Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes in recent years, inflation has remained stickier than many expected. The most recent inflation data shows prices rising by 3.5% year over year in March, which exceeds the Fed's 2% target. As such, the Fed has held interest rates steady in recent months. The Fed does not directly set mortgage rates, but the central bank's decisions regarding its benchmark rate will generally affect the direction of mortgage rates. And presently, mortgage rates are at 7%. 7%. That is just destroying the housing market. April, right now, this is where people should be jumping in and buying up houses. They're not, because that rate is so high. Again, the choices for a tangible asset are typically housing, like real estate, or precious metals. People are not going into real estate because the mortgage rate is so high, so they're putting they're buying up precious metals instead, and that is pushing and will continue to push the price of silver up. As this April meeting comes in 9 days from now, when this meeting comes, everything is pointing and showing that rates will not be cut. And that is going to push silver easily into the $30 range, and I see it going to $35. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a regular silver stacker. I've been stacking this here, and here's some generic silver for years. So I'm just saying years and years I've been stacking this. So I'm just telling you my experience. And silver is going to hit $35. Now, listen, this is how silver changes forever, because we hit the $35 range, which we will. When we get in that $35 range, that means over the past 2 months, we'll be seeing a $10 increase in the spot price for silver. $10. That means a tube of silver, like these tubes where I just pulled this from, a tube of silver is $20. Sorry, it's 20 coins. 20 coins. So that's a $200 increase in a short period of time. A $200 increase to buy a tube of silver rounds. Many of us, that's how we stack our silver. We buy generic rounds, and when we stack tubes and tubes. This is a very common way to stack silver. It's efficient, and that's how we do it. Now, in this short period of time, we're seeing a $10 increase in our spot price. That's a $200 increase for a tube of silver rounds. That is painful, and as we all know, as silver stackers, you don't have to believe me. Ask any silver stacker that has been in this game for years and decades, just like me. Ask them, and they will tell you the same thing. And you could just go Google the historical charts of silver price. You'll see it on Google. You'll see the charts. What happens with silver is that it hits a level, and then it does not drop down. It won't drop down a full $10. We're not going back to $25. It doesn't drop like that. It will hover around the $35 range, and it'll hover there for a while. Now, this is a big jump. And yes, great news for those of us who have been stacking this. We've been stacking this silver for years and decades, and we've accumulated a lot. Great news for us. But for people who want to get in, they're going to feel like silver is giving them that gold feeling, where it's sure you could pick up a few rounds here and there, but it's going to be very difficult to accumulate a large amount.